at Har Zion Agudat Achim. Tomorrow is April 27. It's Israel recognition date for the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And it's always on the 27th day of the Nisan month. I grew up in Israel, and in Israel, the Holocaust is always present every year, but especially on Yom HaShoah, which is the Holocaust Remembrance Day. Yom HaShoah is a very special day, quiet day. It started with sundown. There's a main ceremony in Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem, where the president and the prime minister is giving speech. Holocaust survivors light up 6 torches for symbolize the 6 million, and the chief rabbis give their praise. The next day is a very quiet day. At 10 a.m., there is a siren aired through to the neighborhoods, the TV, the radio, and everyone is expected to observe 2 minutes of silence to remember. Everyone stopped. I don't know if you ever saw that or ever been to Israel, but everyone stopped. Either they're eating, working, even driving on the highways. They're like stopping, leaving the car, standing in silence. All around the countries, there are ceremony services held in every school, military base, public and community organizations. There's no entertainment at all, no cinema, no restaurants, theater, nothing. And the TV and the radio is always dedicated to documentaries about the Holocaust and related shows. So this is a day to get together as a nation. And this is what we try to do tonight. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. And we are proud to host Mrs. Agi Geva to share her story as a Holocaust survivor. Agi will share with us her personal story during the Holocaust. And then after that, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Agi also prepared a slide presentation to help us get more of a vivid image of her story and her history. A little bit about Agi. Agi was born as Agnes Laszlo on June 2nd, 1930 in Budapest, Hungary. She was one of 2 daughters of Rosalia and Sultan Laszlo. She spent 6 years of her life in a small farming village where her father managed a large farm, but due to her father's falling health and anti-Semitic legislation prohibit Jews from working in the agriculture business, the family moved to Miskolc, I hope I presented right, where Agi's mother managed a boarding school. On 1944, same days, the German forces occupied Hungary. Agi's father died, and Agi's sister and her mother joined a group of 30 Jews sent to work in a field outside the town. Then they returned to the town, and from there lived in the ghetto and deported to Auschwitz. Agi, her mother and his sister was in some point entered to Flaszów concentration camp when the Soviet army approached Flaszów, and the entire camp, including the 3 women that we're going to hear about, were sent back to Auschwitz for a few weeks and then moved to several other labor camps. Agi was liberated by American soldiers on April 28, 1945. And a few years later, immigrated to Israel. And today she lives in Washington, D.C. area. Agi has 4 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren, 2 kids. She speaks 4 languages fluently: Hebrew, Hungarian, German, and English. And she's an active member and a volunteer at the Holocaust Museum in DC. So Agi speaks frequently about her experience during the Holocaust in schools and universities all around the States, and at other places like the US Army and the US Department of Justice. I'm very proud that you joined us today. Agi, thank you so much for willing to join us today. And if everyone can please mute themselves. Okay, Agi, we're ready for you. I was going to ask you before we get to the story of the war, and let's start with you sharing with us maybe a little bit about your family, your community, yourself, the years before the war. Let me know when you want me to upload the photos.
Now. Okay, thank you. So welcome everybody. And it's a difficult, sad story actually. But I went through really a lot, but survived, and maybe in order to be able to tell it to everybody who is interested and who wants to know what really happened in those days. Can I have the first picture, please, Hadas?
Yes.
Okay, this is a picture of Shosha, my sister, and me, the age of 3 and 4. And the next one will be my mother, Rosalia, my father, Zoltan. Please, the next pictures. This is Rosalia. And this is my father, Zoltan, who had a notion that something has to stay with us. We should have something that can't be taken away from us. And this was languages. And he was very, very strict about it, that we should know German as soon as possible. We were 2, 3, when we went to the first grade, we knew already fluently, and then we learned English. And he had a lot to do with me being here today and being able to tell the story. And next one, please. My mother, Rosalia, had a different way of saving us, actually. And that was, this picture is still on the farm. We were always with white ribbons and white socks, and always a doll around. Next one, please. This is our last winter, actually. I would like to stay here for a while with these pictures. This was in 1943 still, actually. This is my mother, father, my sister, me, and the guest in the hotel, I think. That I should mention to you that my father was fired from his job in 1939. That was really very, very unusual, because anti-Semitism wasn't that much yet felt. And he got a heart attack. He never recovered, actually. And then my mother had to see to it that she should be the breadwinner, and she opened a small pension, a small hotel that, can you show the picture, please? Looked like that. Here we are actually in the entrance, all of us. Can I have the next picture? That's how the house looked, that we loved to live here. And among the guests, there was an English teacher when I was 10, started to teach us English. And that's the house we just had to walk out and get into the, let's say, to the ghetto. But before it, we still had some other problems. My father used to say, even my mother, that to the Hungarians, this will never happen, but happened around Hungary, actually. Not what happened in Czechoslovakia, not in Austria, not in Romania, nowhere. To the Hungarians, it won't happen. But in 1944, on the 19th of March, it did happen. Germans occupied Hungary, and that day, and then this morning, my father died. I think if he hadn't died and had known about what was happening, it would have been killing him also, anyhow. So that was the day when everything got upside down. Everything started to happen. We couldn't go to school anymore. We had to wear the yellow stars on our clothes when we left the house. We were not allowed to have bicycles. I mean, the Jewish teenagers. And when worst came to the worst, we had to leave and had to go into a ghetto that was a fenced off part of Miskolc, the city where I went to school and where I grew up. And the ghetto was actually let's say it was a 1-bedroom apartment, and we were joining 5-6 families to this apartment. It was really, really very, very bad, uncomfortable. Food was very scarce. I can't even remember. This was a part of my life that I really wanted to forget. I can't remember where we slept, where we ate, what we have done. But after a couple of weeks, when we were taken to the brick factory on the railway station, this became really not the worst. Show me the next picture, please. In this factory, brick factory, actually, there was only a ceiling. There were no sides, walls, and we could have escaped. And my mother was so decisive about it that we should stay together. And she was afraid if she will really try to take us out of the brick factory, we are not going to survive. She was very sure that we had to stay somehow together. So this is the train that came to the station, and I was sure that this train is going to pass by only, and we are not going to be forced to get on it, but it was exactly the opposite. As you see, there are Hungarian gendarmes and German soldiers with guns pointing at us, forcing us up into these trains. And there is a small window under the roof that was the only possibility to have some air and light. We didn't know what did it mean deportation? We didn't know all these new words that we suddenly heard. I'm talking about my sister and myself, about deportation, cattle wagons, ghetto, yellow star. These were all new to us. But what happened in these trains during the 3.5 days and before we arrived to Auschwitz was actually undescribable even. There were teenagers screaming and couldn't stop. There were small children, babies crying the same time. There were pregnant women, older men, sick people. I can't imagine, you can't imagine what we went through during these 3.5 days until we arrived somewhere. We had no idea that we were in Poland, that we were in Auschwitz, and what the word Auschwitz meant. Show me the next picture, please. There were two groups of people here, women and the men, and the women were so hysterical and begging and crying and then asking to tell a goodbye to a husband, brother, to a son. That was absolutely not allowed. And they went to one direction and we were supposed to go somewhere else. But this time my mother didn't take any chances. She was really, really desperate that we got into this situation. Even she told us just to go with the flow, go with the people, with the group. She will go to the beginning of the line and see what's happening there. This time she didn't want to take what's going to happen. At the beginning of the line, there were 4 or 5 Germans selecting, actually, it was a new word again, selection. What did we know about it, what it meant? And my mother just noticed that some people were sent to the left, some to the right. She had no idea and didn't mind, didn't care what was what. Actually, all what she wanted to know, where could we be sent, that we should look the same somehow and stay together. She heard that the girls under 16s were automatically sent to the left side. So she said that this is not for us. She wanted us to look older and be able to be selected with her together. So when she came back, she told us, you have to be 18 and 19 in case you are asked, but at the same time, you have to look it also. And she made us take out our scarves that we took with us and bind our heads this way, that we should look older when we said that we are 18 and 19. Somehow something helped because we were selected, all the 3 of us together. We were so happy, but not for long. Things started to happen. We had to put our trolleys down, that I didn't mind so much, even though it was a last part of home, as I could have called. There was in it a piece of chocolate, a book I read recently, a new watch, a dress, maybe a change of clothes. So it wasn't so bad if I had to part with it. But the grown-ups, including my mother, became completely, really hysterical and begging and crying to keep their trolleys with them. But was, of course, impossible, and they took it away from them. But what was in it was actually pictures, family pictures, passports, money, jewels. So there was money in it that my mother thought she could use. She could use as a bribe for food, for life, for anything. But of course, it was taken away and it wasn't anymore possible. The next time, what happened was that we had to undress. And there were even more beggings and more hysterics, because what they thought that the trolleys might be taken away, and they had in their pockets sewn in passports, more documents, more money, more jewels. So to stay without anything was almost unthinkable, but it had to be. But when things started to happen again, more terrible and more hard to bear, was that we had to undress completely. We were shaved from all hair on our body. We were disinfected, and we were sent to the showers. You know, there was always a guard around, someone around who said the following sentence that kept me thinking a lot.
I think we're frozen.
Agi, can you hear us?
We just heard that, but we can't hear Aggie.
Okay. 1 second.
She's got to unmute, Hadass.
A city, okay. So just show me the next picture, please. Okay, but I told the last time was that we were supposed to be lucky, and we heard this sentence again before we went into the showers, and the meaning was that as terrible as it was, the way we felt humiliated and everything, it was really lucky, because from our showers water came, and from the next barrack those people who were sent to the left and were in those showers, gas came. I didn't know it at the time. I couldn't understand it exactly, and my mother immediately saw that I will not be able to cope with it, and she asked everyone around not to let me know what's happening in Auschwitz. It might be one of the things really that saved me. Now this gate with the German sentence above it, Arbeit macht frei, meant that work makes you free. If we never understood what they meant by it, but that was the gate we went through when we left Auschwitz and when we came back, wherever we went. We were not working in Auschwitz, actually. We were there were lots of selections the same day, every day. My mother used to take off my glasses, fold it like this, and put it in the side of her shoes, where they couldn't find it, or it wasn't visible, in order I shouldn't wear glasses and be different from others who had no more their glasses. She was always very, very concerned what will happen in these selections. But somehow we were selected again, the three of us together, and sent to the railway station. By this time we knew what waited for us. We knew that it will be a cattle wagon. We knew it was a little bit easier because there were no small children, there were no sick people, there were no older people. And somehow the journey was one day. Next picture, please. We got to Plaszow. That was a camp where we were supposed to carry big stones up hill, and the next day we had to carry them back. And then the prisons were opened in Poland, and all the murderers, robbers, any other criminals were sent to Plaszow, where we were more afraid of them than of the Nazis. This picture only shows that I couldn't show it to you before. That was still in Auschwitz when we were sent to the barracks where we stayed during the night. And that was a bunk where it would be comfortable if everyone had one bed. But next day there was a big transport sent in. That's what they called us, a transport. And then we were 6, 7 on one of the beds. And when somebody had to turn, everybody had to turn. When one person wanted to get up, all of us got up. So it was really impossible in a way, but it was, I thought that time it was the worst, but it was not. Next picture, please. I don't think that we have a picture of Plaszow. Yeah, we have. So it reminded me really of Egypt and of the slaves you see here in the beginning were us. But after 2-3 weeks there, we were sent back to the railway station as there was some cannon shooting heard. And we thought also that the Russians were nearing to liberate us, but the Germans thought the same way, and they closed the camp and sent us back to the wagons. I was so desperate and so everything that I just can't explain to you, but how I got on this train, not knowing where it was going. And my mother kept on telling that we were in the we were in the worst camps, both of them, Warsaw and then Auschwitz. It can't be worse, she kept on telling and kept on consoling. That absolutely didn't help me at all. But when we opened the doors and when we got, after one day's trip, to our destination, we saw that, please, the next picture, we saw that we were back in Auschwitz. It just couldn't be worse. It couldn't. And then my mother saw, when they opened the doors, that one person, one German officer was selecting. There were German soldiers on gunpoint, of course, around him. But always one person came in front of him, and then my mother really got scared. She told, either follow me wherever I was, wherever I will be sent, or ask for a working camp. Well, she was sent to the right. My sister was sent to the right. But me, he sent to the left. We didn't know who was Mengele at that time. We had no idea that he was called actually the angel of death, that he was the cruelest person ever. All this I didn't know. But I had to tell him that no, please, I want to go to the right side. He was very surprised that someone ever talked to him, contradicted him. He just asked, what is there on the right side? I told him, working camp. He just said still that he doesn't think that I can still work. I don't look as if I can still work. But then he realized that we were talking German. And really there's the possibility that my father really thought to have me to have these languages, and it might have saved me, because he was so surprised and pleased maybe in a way. He told, okay, go to that side. My mother from far, when she saw the argument, fainted. She was sure she will never see me again. But then I got to the group where she was, and our happiness that we were the three of us together again didn't last long, because we had a real humiliation waiting for us, and it was the tattoo. We were tattooed on our left lower arm, the number and the word and the letter A, meaning Auschwitz. It was so humiliating and hurtful in a way. My mother just asked us to think of it, never ever to have surgically removed the numbers. To say stories we can all say, but the tattoo number is a real proof that what we went through and that we were in Auschwitz. Next picture, please. There were selections, again, every day. That was the second time I was in Auschwitz. Nothing changed. The selections were on every day. And they got an order from Germany for 200 workers in a factory for aeroplane spare parts, small screws that had to be done from aluminium. And near these big machines that you can see in this very huge factory. It was scary enough just to look at it, but when we found out that we are going to work from 7 in the evening till 7 in the morning, every single day to work at night, we could hardly fall asleep in the daytime. My mother kept on telling us stories from the times we were still free, and then stories after the war. She thought we are going to be free. Somehow I personally never thought I will ever be free. I thought I will be a prisoner for my life. But my mother somehow was sure that we are going to be liberated somewhere. From here, actually, one nice day, I keep on telling, we had to stand in the doorway, not to go to the machines. We had to leave the factory. But I didn't see anything. I didn't see a truck. I didn't see a car. I didn't. I was told even that we are not going by train. These hated wagons. I would have loved it that time, because I couldn't imagine how we can just walk out in February in Germany, in the cold, in the rain, in the windy weather, without suitable clothes on, without a shoe that fitted. We had really no underwear, we had no cap, scarf, gloves, not even socks. And we were still supposed to walk out. We did. We walked 400 kilometers. We were supposed to walk till Dachau, but it didn't come to it. Because, next picture, please. Because at some time in the forest, we were told by one or some other observant prisoners, actually, that we had no guards around. They are just not here. They disappeared. And then one of the capos, after 20 Polish people, we were 180 Hungarians and 20 Polish women. They told us that from today, 1945, the 28th of April, you are free. She told it that slowly because she couldn't imagine that we were at 1 year in Auschwitz and she was 5 years already. And she has to tell us that we are free. You know, I heard the word free. I didn't have to be told twice. I knew exactly what it meant, and I knew I will not be a prisoner ever again. I will be grateful for the rest of my life for my freedom. The picture is here only because here I'm really 19, not like I was supposed to say so when I was still 14. So I would like you all to ask questions for of the deportation up till here. And then I will continue what happened to us later. So please ask anything. You are the last generation actually who sees a survivor actually alive to be capable of answering personally any